at the national conference in whatever month that was, May. So if you were in my session at the national conference, this is a great time to leave here and go to a different session unless you loved it so much you just want to talk about it all over again. Um, but I am, oh, okay, hold on one second. Let's see. Now I need to get off the screen. Hold on one second because I made this big so I can actually see what I'm doing here. Oh no, I just did something terrible. Hold on, guys. It's gonna all work out for us in a minute, I swear. Okay. Can you see my screen again? Okay.
Yes.
Is it okay this way where I'm not like in a full slideshow? Is it big enough for everybody or not really? Okay, we're going to take that as a yes. Great. So, hi, I am Kelly Sperduto. I am the Director of Community Schools for our school district. And on the next slide, I'll go over that a little bit with you. I am also a wife and a mom to two daughters. Both of them are competitive cheerleaders, and both of them have zero work ethic. So, I am the overseeing summer camps this summer. So, one of them is here today. The other one comes other days where I try to force them to work for small amounts of money because they want to just stay home and drink Starbucks and walk to Target and spend all of my money. That is my dog, Denver Rose, named after the Denver Broncos. She is the best behaved golden retriever ever. And that's why I can't have a puppy because any other dog will be far worse behaved than her. That is me holding a snake. Notice my hands aren't actually touching it because that is like the fact that I did that, I was crying. That's why my glasses are on. We were in Baltimore for a trip and it took all of my will and might to hold that snake from the random man on the street who had a snake and was letting people hold it. And then that's part of our team up in the top, which I'll talk about a little bit more, and a vacation with my mom and my girls to Jamaica last year. So that is me. This is our school district. So we are in Greece Central School District in Western New York, inner ring suburb to Rochester City School District. And we are between Syracuse and Buffalo. The most important thing to know that we live in hell of winter. Like it never stops snowing. It's freezing cold. Like it feels like 11 months of the year, but people say it's like 6 months of the year. Our district is one of the largest suburban school districts in our state. So we have, which is different. I know people in other states are like, that's not big, but we have almost 10,000 students, 18 school buildings, and we established our community schools back in 2017, 2018. I was actually the community schools coordinator for our pilot elementary school. And since then, every year we have added one or two more community schools so that now 17 of our 18 schools will be full service community schools next school year. And we have kind of a co-led model. So we have a community-based organization that hires almost all of our staff, all of our community schools coordinators, but I am a district employee. And so the district really kind of like guides the ship and says to our CBO, this is the work that we want your team to be doing here in Greece. Okay. So today we're going to take what we've done in our school district and done with some other schools with the National Center for Community Schools and just talk about really understanding how systems align to support the community schools essentials implementation, support school improvement and continuous improvement. Like I said, I'm going to give you some real world examples about how we have done that in our district and then how to analyze the alignment of the core characteristics to set goals for your district. This is where we hope that technology likes us. So I'm going to press on this video and hope it works. And then we are going to have people just kind of shout out. So in the chat or out loud, just what this video makes you think of, what connections you see to the community schools strategy, et cetera, et cetera. So let's see if you can see the video. Ready? Go.
A team of diverse people working together for a common goal.
They all need one another for this to be successful.
A team
The
moving in the
movement
right
is
direction.
coordinated.
I feel like they're rolling backwards.
I'll explain that part in a minute.
I do. I love that also rowing backwards. It's almost like sometimes you're looking back as you're making forward movement.
So really the only
That
reason they're rowing the wrong way is because AI refused to let us have them row the way you really should row in our
That's
defense.
hilarious.
We
Oh,
took we spent like days and hours trying to make this stupid 20-second clip because AI just like did not want to participate. And there are no videos of people rowing like to show our point. Okay. What did you
It's not
notice?
totally irrelevant though, because sometimes we feel like we're swimming against the current with the barriers that come our way.
Yeah. Say more, everybody. Keep going.
I think they're all like rowing together, so they're working together to ultimately get to where they need to go.
Hmm.
I would agree. And then they're doing, I'm not sure if there's like any audio with them rowing, but they're conducting, they're rowing without having to speak to one another. They're all in conjunction with one another.
Hmm.
At one point, it looked as though they stopped rowing and the current just kind of dragged them around in a circle. So that just kind of, I mean, sometimes when life or districts or anything just kind of throws a wrench your way, you just kind of have to go with the flow.
Yeah. How many times do you feel like you like just have to throw your oars in the air and your district or your entity is
Yeah.
telling you what to do and you have no control and you're like,
Yeah.
fine, I give up. Anything else? Okay. So in our district, the way we've talked about the community school strategy a lot is that it's the connective tissue. So the strategy is not the plate, right? We're not like community schools, that's the thing you do. No. Our community school strategy is the connective tissue between all of the other things. I kind of think of it like of an umbrella over everything, right? So you look at all the different programs, all the different humans, all the different departments. And instead of saying like, here's a new thing, here's a new shiny toy for you, try this, we just say, how can we be more strategic, more aligned, and connect all the things we're already doing so that we're all rowing in the same direction and trying to make the most of what we have instead of just trying to do it differently. Has anyone heard of that connective tissue analogy before for community schools? Is there any other way that people have described the strategy that they feel like has resonated with people aside from like that connective tissue or the umbrella? Silence. We'll move on. Okay.
No,
Okay.
I'm sorry because I thought I was trying to type, but I'm like, I'm
Oh,
not
go
sure
ahead.
they'll get in the type. No, but I hadn't heard it that way before as far as the connective tissue. I like that idea because we are in my district, we're like the crux of a lot of things that are happening. And people need to be able to see us that way as that connective tissue between student services, between the purchasing department, between the family and parent engagement department. So yeah, I like that idea of being the connective tissue. So yeah, thank you for that analogy.
Thank you. Okay, so when we think about the strategy, it's really a continuous improvement strategy, and that's an inquiry-based process intended to improve program quality and outcomes through iteration over time. And so we talk a lot about like that plan, do, study, act cycle. But thinking about community school strategy as a means toward continuous improvement is part of what we're going to think about today, okay? So when you think about continuous improvement that's included in the essentials, what do you think when you hear about continuous improvement? And people can just shout out.
It's probably like a work in progress. I mean, you're never done. You're always kind of fluctuating and changing with the time.
Yep. So a work in progress. What else?
Reflecting,
Um,
building
oh,
upon what you've accomplished.
Yep. Reflecting, building upon what's already happening.
Yeah, I was gonna say something similar, like trial and error in a way, taking something you've done, analyzing it, looking at it, what can you do to make it better? What would you keep the same? Things along those lines.
Yeah,
I
when we
was,
have, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say balance between consistent feedback and new feedback.
Mhm. When we have new coordinators start, sometimes people are like, continuous improvement feels so heady. And like, if you're someone who doesn't come from a world of, and I say to them, like, it just brings me back to elementary school with the scientific process. And so I'm like, if you understood the scientific process, you understand continuous improvement as well. It's very similar. Okay. So the next slide looks at this continuous school improvement process, and this comes directly from the essentials framework. So I'm sure everyone on this call is like, yeah, the essentials wheel. I've looked at that. I know it. I know the key practices, the enabling conditions, et cetera, et cetera. But the thing that I think is interesting is if I was going to take the essentials framework and hand it out to the world, this is actually the slide I would start with and focus on, is talking about the continuous improvement. And so we start with that take stock and plan part of that, and then you move to the implementing and developing the supportive infrastructure, and then working toward those impacts and outcomes. And if you're doing this well, like it's a natural process you're going through. But if you're not doing it well, you end up with this. Does anyone want to say anything about like what this slide makes them think about? Or when you felt like you were in one of these arrows that's not the last one?
I think of chaos.
Yeah.
I think of just a bunch of projects that get started but never quite go anywhere.
Mm-hmm. I always think of the analogy jumping for grounders. Like when you're playing baseball and like, when the ball's rolling at you on the ground, you should get low with your mitt, but instead you're like jumping up and doing the opposite of what you need to do. What else?
I'm on my school's attendance team, and I'm thinking like we've had kids who avoid school, right? And if you have a kid who is like the social worker says, the goal is the kid just comes to school. The goal isn't that the kid is making up work or anything. The goal is just that the kid comes to school. But then the teacher's goal is that whenever the kid's at school, the kid is taking the tests and stuff. And so those all are like for the benefit of the child, but they don't have that collective impact and they don't have the uh, alignment together to have the same like target. So
Mm-hmm.
instead, just kind of like working against each other.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's happened to us with our community school strategy. Like you have all these great ideas and all these arrows that each individually and uniquely are lovely, but sometimes they become counterintuitive and working against one another. So you have a community partner who wants to come in and do mental health counseling with kids, but you're not strategic with your scheduling, and instead those kids who are struggling academically are also getting pearled from their core instructional program for their mental health therapy instead of finding another time of the day. And so instead of benefiting the kid, it has a negative impact on their academics. Um, so really thinking about if you want to have results, all the arrows have to be not only going the same direction, but really coordinated and collaborative. Okay, so in order to make that happen, there are core characteristics at this building level that have to be in place. So you can have a rock star coordinator and a rock star principal, but if they don't see eye to eye or don't work together, that can be a major barrier. And so that collaborative partnership between the two of them is essential. But as we all know, two people can't carry the whole school. So in order to do the work, you really have to have a strong advisory team at your building. And that advisory team, what we've learned, and I credit the National Center for Community Schools for this, is like your community schools advisory team really needs to be the team. They can't be working off on a silo on their own and just be like, oh, what do those community schools folks think? What do they want to do? It really has to be your school improvement team is focused on community schools. And as a full school unit, what do we want to do? Because the strategy shouldn't be isolated or off to the side or alone. It's got to be the core function of how the school does business. Does anyone have any like reflections on that piece about their advisory teams? And, is your advisory team separate and isolated? And can you make that work? Or is it the main entity in the school? Like, any thoughts on that?
This is Claudia from Maryland, and I must say that here at Greenbelt Middle School, we do have a strong advisory team that includes myself, my principal, my parent engagement, my liaison, student. I have two students, staff, and two community members on my team. And right now, in this month, we are in our planning session. We have a lot of initiatives already working, but again, the whole team must be on one page. You can't have PEA doing and community school not knowing what they're doing. Everyone must be on the same page to make things happen, to see results.
Thank you. Anyone else want to share about their advisory and how that helps with the continuous improvement or any, hurdles or road bumps with their advisory?
Can I actually ask a question?
Yeah.
Advisory team, what exactly, can you elaborate on that? I mean, are we talking like a school improvement team? What is it exactly that advisory team should be or should look like?
Yeah, so I think that there are options, like it's not one size fits all. For us, we found that if the school improvement team is also the community schools advisory team, like then everyone is rowing in the same direction. Everyone has the same understanding of what's happening. At the same time, like a school improvement team is super busy. So you can't be like, hi, I'm the community schools coordinator. I'm here to take this meeting and use it for my purposes and my purposes only, right? So like you're a piece of that school improvement team and you can have part of the time, but sometimes there's work that has to happen outside of that main meeting. And so I think a best practice for us has been be a part of that school improvement team. And then if you need a subcommittee to dig deeper into the work, like they can be your advisory subcommittee, but they really have to be connected to the whole school because if you're on that island doing the work separate, even if you're getting back to sit regularly, like it's just not a best practice. You all have to really be on the same page at the same time. Anybody else? What do your advisories look like? Are they a part of your school improvement team, separate?
We have a community school steering committee that was our family and community engagement team, but we kind of renamed it and reimagined it because the family and community engagement team was kind of didn't really have a clear vision. We wanted to incorporate family and community engagement into everything that we were doing and not just have it be its own separate team. And so we made a community school steering committee with people who are on all the different teams of the school. So people who are part of the PTA, people who are part of the school improvement team, people who are part of, everything else. So that the core community schools steering committee could go out and disperse to the other groups.
Thank you. All right, I saw in the chat that Liz said we're ending at 11:10, so I'm going to keep us moving. So this slide, and I'm going to go back to some other ones, really just talks about how in our district we aligned our work with all of the things that are already happening. So in New York State, if you have any schools that are cited by the state as being in need of improvement, your school district then has to have a district comprehensive improvement plan that you turn into the state. So our district has several schools that were cited as in need of improvement. So therefore we have a district comprehensive plan. That district comprehensive plan, we've had three big buckets in. So there's one bucket around academics, specifically literacy, a second bucket around professional learning communities, and then a third bucket around behavior. And so every school in our district will have at least three school improvement plan goals. And the goals are very strategic around those things. So it's increasing third grade reading levels by a certain percentage. It is having a highly functioning professional learning community, and it's around our tiered intervention for behavior. So every single school will have those three goals, and then we have to figure out how the community schools team is going to support those goals. And so what we've said to the team is look at the three goals and then think about your sphere of influence or circle of control. What can you as a community schools coordinator add value with to support those school improvement plans? So now I'm going to just show you nothing. Hold on, this doesn't like me because we have to be in slideshow. Give me one sec. Bear with me. It's all gonna happen. Okay. Lordy, lordy, hold on. That did not work at all. Don't worry, we'll pivot in a sec if it doesn't work. Commence pivoting. All right, hold on. I'm just going to pull up some of our team's goals around our school improvement planning process in 1 second. Trying to think of the fastest way to get to them for you guys. I'm sorry. Bear with me. You know what I can do? I can go to the presentation and then just not share it this way with you. Do we wonder why this is happening? Okay, sorry. Sorry, I would talk to you while I was doing this, but then I'd be even more distracted. I'm getting there.
Take your time.
Okay, here we go. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So in our district, we have, like I said, the three goals. And so our community schools team also has goals aligned with that. So at the elementary level, they have a literacy focused goal. And at the secondary level, they have a college and career readiness goal. For the professional learning communities, we talked about the speed of trust and effective team building within our community schools. And then there was an attendance goal that's shifted to behavior for 26, 27, but last year goal 3 was around the attendance. And then our parent coordinators also had a parent coordinator family engagement goal. And so each of our community schools coordinators then took the goal and created lead measures. So it doesn't really matter if you call them, we call them wildly important goals. A lot of districts call them SMART goals. Doesn't matter what you call it. It's a goal that they have around the school improvement plan. So every coordinator had a goal about reducing the number of kids who were chronically absent by 4% or 5% last school year. And then they had to say what were the things they were going to do in order to make that happen. So this is one of our high school community schools coordinators. Her two things she was doing was implementing and promoting a school-wide reinforcement system as evidenced by students turning in 100 Titan tickets for monthly incentives. So what they did was when kids were in class on time, for their first period, the teachers would hand out Titan tickets for them because what they found was if kids didn't show up to first period and get marked present for the day, then you can, in essence, skip all day long and no one even knows you're in the building. And so getting them to that home base was super important. And so that was one of her goals. And then her other goal was creating at least one school-wide community incentive event per quarter to celebrate kids who did have improved attendance and behavior. And so what she did for that one was actually get a student advisory group together and say to the kids, like, hey, we're going to do school-wide incentives around attendance. What would you want to do? So rather than the adults in the building arbitrarily picking things, they talked to the kids and picked what those incentives were going to be. So they had a dirty soda party, they had a karaoke party, they had boba and lemonade. They did students versus staff and staff versus staff basketball games. So anything for kids to engage kids and really build that culture of belonging, safety, and care in order to get them into school. And then in order to make sure she was really doing this with fidelity, she has a scoreboard, which did it bring you to her scoreboard or are you still stuck on the other screen? Someone will just have to say it out loud to me.
We can see it.
Great. It's all happening. So she takes these lead measures and then every single month she'll say each week, did I do the thing I said I was going to do? So did I hand out 100 Titan tickets or do things toward that? Yes or no? Did I work on the school-wide incentive? Yes or no? And then this scoreboard helps her to track in real time, like, hey, I met my goal this year. That's probably because each week I did this thing 2, 3, or 4 times. Or I didn't meet my goal and I really wasn't doing it. Like in the month of, I'm just going to make, let's just pretend in the month of January, I slacked a little bit, especially in weeks 3 and 4, which isn't entirely true here. And therefore I wasn't able to meet my goals. So this was a consistent way to align the work with what the school was doing. I'm going to bring you to another one too. Hold on. I'm going to get you an elementary person. Okay. So this is our early learning center, and they had, sorry, hold on one sec. Okay, so they had a goal around proficiency in ELA, and so the coordinator in that building's lead measures were hosting Westy University nights, which were parent engagement and nights, linked to early learning literacy and phonics instruction, that at least 75% of families would attend and report increased confidence in supporting phonics at home. Then, so that was her student and family engagement. Then for expanded learning opportunities, she said she would ensure that every club facilitator embedded phonics instruction into each club meeting. So whether it was cooking club, basketball club, or literacy club, there was expectations around how you could incorporate phonics instruction into that. And she did that by going to professional learning communities, team meetings at each grade level and talking to them like what phonics is most important, how could clubs instructors support that, giving the clubs instructors some skill set around the phonics instruction. And then there was a QR code in the club's folder saying every time you do a phonics thing with club, scan this QR code and help us keep track of the data. And then the last one was just ensuring that at least 50% of the students in the building participated in expanded learning opportunities that intentionally included phonics time. So giving kids more time on task around phonics by making sure at least 50% of the kids in the school participated in after school clubs. And same thing, she has a scoreboard where she keeps track of this. And then the team comes together monthly to discuss their progress toward their goals, the barriers they're hitting, when they have to pivot and why, and how best to support the school improvement plans. And then at the end of the year, they come together, look at their data and say like, hey, I did X, Y, and Z, and it really moved the needle, or the lead measures I had weren't making sense. This is why. Here's how I'm going to move the needle next time. I'm talking very fast at you and I apologize, but I just realized we're running short on time. So
She sent a message that we're going until 11:35.
Oh, just like that, it's added. Great. Just kidding. Now I can slow down again. It's all happening. Hold on one sec. Okay. So before we move on from that section, I guess I just want to hear from people like what resonated with you around that alignment to school improvement plans? What things are you doing that might be similar or different? Like what questions do you have about what we've talked about so far?
How did your team like approach the district to say like, hey, what are your goals? Like, because we want to be a part of that planning part, right?
That's a great question. First of all, that co-led model has been really helpful for us, right? Because I'm a district employee. I like to say like, I'm in the room where it happens, right? So I sit on our superintendent's extended cabinet and can hear everything that's happening. And so that's super helpful. But what we do is I'm just noisy and annoying at times and say to the district constantly, oh, hi, remember us, community schools? What can we do to help? Hold on one second. I can help with that. We can support that. What if we do this? And so like every time something new comes out at the district level, like we're the first ones to say, let us tell you what we can do about that. And so not only from the district perspective am I annoying and loud about it, but also our community schools coordinators have collaborative leadership meetings with their principal every other week. So they have a lovely agenda for that meeting that says, here's my wildly important goal. Here's what I'm doing around that. And then here's what I'm doing around the other 6 key practices. And so they are with their principal twice a month saying, how am I supporting you? What can we do? What's working? What's not? And I can give you some examples around each of the key practices. So that after school clubs one has looked a lot of different ways. We've embedded vocabulary instruction into that. We've embedded phonics instruction into that. We've embedded our leader and me social emotional learning into clubs. Um, so that's like the quick and easy way to get things happening in clubs. For rigorous community connected classroom instruction, that's been more challenging. And so because we don't have a huge system for that, we've asked our coordinators to just pick one grade level professional learning community to start with and go to them and say like, what are the things you need help with? What are the units that are dry and boring and no one wants to do? Like, how can we make those more relevant for kids? Or what are the units the kids are so engrossed with that you don't have time to go deeper, but you know they'd be interested, and then looking for things there. Um, for the culture of belonging, safety, and care, that's been a big one around our attendance initiatives. So really just like figuring out what makes kids excited about showing up at school, why they want to be there. And that's why the Titan tickets were working in that building, because it just built that culture in the building where kids wanted to show up and do the things. Another thing we've done for attendance is called Show Up and Shine. And so they have pop-up field trips. So kids don't know what day the field trip's going to be. Their parents sign the waiver at the beginning of the year. A phone call goes home to parents at 9 a.m. that says, surprise, today's our field trip to X, Y, and Z. If your child was here in school on time today, they're heading off to the field trip. And so you can do that with a fun field trip to an amusement park, or you can do that with surprise, the snack cart just showed up in your room. You were in school on time today. Everyone in this classroom is getting a snack from the snack cart. Um, and then we talked a little bit about that powerful student and family engagement piece, just like what family engagement events are linked to the school improvement processes where we can do things there. And we trick people sometimes, right? So reading, like no one shows up for reading night. If you say like school's hosting reading night, everyone come along. It's like radio silence. But if you have a glow party, and during the party, you have fly swatters and are swatting glow in the dark words on the wall in the classroom. All of a sudden, everyone's real excited about literacy. And so we've tried to be really intentional about how do we take the schooly stuff and make it super fun with our community schools team. Other questions or things around embedding those goals and supporting it?
I do have a quick question. Are you able to give a few of those examples on like a high school level? Um,
Yep.
Obviously it's a little different, so just like a little inspiration if you have any off the
Yeah.
top of your head.
So we've anchored a lot to the student advisory groups and having them be like a core team for our site coordinators. And so the students will actually say like, what is it that we want? So the teachers need to improve attendance. If show up and shine isn't the thing, what is the thing? And so at our alternative school, the kids would actually submit proposals for what they wanted. So, right, all of a sudden we have you learning because you're writing a proposal for the thing. And the first proposal that got approved was actually for a smoothie maker. And so they got a real bougie, like $300 smoothie maker. And on Fridays, the kids would be able to come down and actually make smoothies in the morning, if they were there and had done, like, their behavior was on track and their attendance was on track. Um, I'm trying to think of some other examples. The academic examples at the high school are largely around college and career pathways. So again, the student advisory would say, like, these are some careers we're interested in. Can we either set up field trips or bring people in? And so at the alternative high school, one of the things they did was, like, they had tattoo artists come in, barbers and hairdressers, and did, like, here's how you can use your artistic skills creatively in careers. Like, you don't need to go to a 4-year university for this, but you may need to do X, Y, and Z, or you might need a business degree around it. So just thinking about, like, what's relevant at the high school level. And a lot of that has come with having a place for kids to show up. So at one of our buildings, we have the Spartan Square, which is a cool lounge, but it also conveniently has our food pantry and clothing closet in there too. So you can build comfort, meet your coordinator, go in the lounge, but then you can also get the food and clothes you need while you're there.
I just want to say, Kelly, this is extremely helpful. Me and my two other coworkers that are on the call with you, we're newly hired coordinators for a school. Um, so we were trying to come up with ideas like for attendance and how we can get them motivated. So I would definitely like your contact after this. I definitely want us to connect with you because we've got a lot of great ideas and I'm just taking it all in.
Sure. I'll put it in the chat right now. And I will say that one of the best ways to do that is through, I don't know if everyone is connected to one of the groups, but like the coordinators network, the community schools managers network, and the community schools leaders network, like that is a great way to really get to know one another. And since Liz is here, I'm hoping she can drop that in the chat for us. I think having communities of practice and like-minded, thank you, people to help you and support you is key. And we always get great ideas in those networks and also find groups that want to be together and just talk about the things. Because it is really lonely when you're on an island and newly hired and have no idea what your job is and you're just making guesses. And these things that we're doing comes after 8 years of work. And what we've learned from the National Center, and this is like one of my key takeaways, is as a coordinator, you step in and you're carrying the fire hose, right? Like you're doing all the things. This kid needs boots. This parent needs help with housing. And you're the one literally putting out fires one by one. But that is exhausting and you can't maintain that. And so instead, you want to build the firehouse. So you want to look at, hey, there were 6 kids last month that needed boots. Like, I can't keep just calling people and asking for a pair of boots. We need a partnership for that. Or last month, we realized housing insecurity was a huge problem, and we really need people to know about tenants' rights. So I'm going to bring a lawyer in to talk about tenants' rights. So if you can figure out from when you start how you slowly put down that fire hose and build the firehouse, those are the things that'll work the best. I see Juliana's hand is
Hey,
raised.
Kelly, since you're talking, do you care to drop your screen because we're just staring at Google and then we can.
Oh, yeah, that's a great idea. So smart. So smart. Okay. Is that better? Okay, great. Who else?
So I had a question. I last year was able to do a good amount of work of like somehow putting together MSDE plan, my action plan, and aligning that with the school improvement plan. Out of the 4, I was able to really connect with 2 of them, one of them obviously being attendance. But something I've always wondered is why doesn't the school improvement plan include a community component to it as a part of the goal, just to kind of like help guide that work around resourcing and that community partnership and collaboration and like just the things that you were mentioning, even things like food pantry, like those goals end up really just living in my action plan, maybe as a part of the state implementation plan, but I've never really seen schools include that in their improvement plan.
Yep,
And I'd just love to know like your thoughts around that.
Yep, I'm gonna put in the chat a book that I think is relevant, Making Community Schools a Reality by Emily Woods, because that book is hyper focused on collaborative leadership between building principals and community schools coordinators, and is super practical and an easy read. And I think that's I think things get into your school improvement plan when your building principal says they're a priority. And so when you have that really strong collaborative partnership with your building principal, that's when you see your things. So I said to you, I don't want community schools goals in my school improvement plan. I have one building principal who is a rock star, and she does, because she wants it to be painted all over the walls that we're a community school. These are our goals. This is what matters. And this is how she makes that happen. And so for her, it's intentional to say, this is the specific community schools goal aligned with our school improvement plan goal, because she wants to call it out in black and white for people. And so I think that collaborative partnership and that understanding is how you get things in your school improvement plan. Because if you're the outsider or the extra person who's coming in, things aren't going to get put there just because you say it. And if you do, it's just it's noise. No one's going to pay attention to it. I see someone asked a question about tracking needs. We have found having QR codes around the school where kids can actually ask for things or parents can ask for things, and having that QR code go to a Google form is a great way to have that back end data. And we ask people to keep track of that on a spreadsheet. So every time a kiddo walks into the office and has a request, who's the kid, what are they requesting, and then you can start sorting that and saying we have X amount of kids who asked for this, X amount who asked for that. Along the same lines, we tell our coordinators that when they get hired, they are now in an arranged marriage with their social worker or counselor, whether they like it or not. You are going to be a team, because you're not there to take the place of a social worker. You're there to do the other things. And so if you're not talking to your school social worker every day or at least every week, then the two of you are going to be working parallel to one another, putting out the same fires and wasting your time. Instead, you need to say, this is our social worker's job, this is our coordinator's job, and where are we going to come together? Do we need to do a site visit or a home visit together? Can one of us tackle that? Do you already have a great partnership with a food pantry, so I don't need to worry about setting one up? Or is the social worker going to say to you, we need a food pantry in this building. The one in town is too far away and we have too many people lacking transportation to it. So I think all of that collaboration is where you figure out how to do the things. Dr. Gladden has their hand raised.
Yes, good morning.
Hi.
Quick question. Going back to what you were saying about your school putting it in their school improvement plan, can you elaborate on that? Because I know our district, we have goals for our office, the Office of Community Schools. Yet and still, we do support, the school's improvement, but it's more or less a strategy. The community school is a strategy. How did your school put it in their improvement plan as a goal per se?
So I think for us, alignment is essential. So we have an assistant superintendent and then myself, the director of community schools. Then I oversee all of these coordinators, right? So if the goal is literacy down at the school level, right? And that's what the teachers are working on. Then my coordinators are looking at the 6 key practices around literacy, right? And then my job is, how am I going to support them to do that thing? And so for me, it's about what professional learning, what data dives are we doing? And so my goals last year were to provide data dives twice a year around the literacy and attendance stuff, and to provide professional development around how best to support those goals for my team. Then my boss, the assistant superintendent, looked at how can I best support Kelly to support her team. And then the assistant superintendent's boss, the superintendent, had goals around that. So I think that alignment is really essential. So if you're community schools team has a goal around partnerships. Let's say that like the Office of Community Schools has a goal around having 10 new partnerships for the district. Well, then you're going to say the goals in our school are around math and behavior. I'm just making two things up. Well, then your partners should probably be aligned to those things. So what after school clubs can you offer around math? Or what behavioral supports and interventions can come into the building to support the kids? Does that make sense?
Yeah, because I'm trying to thank you. Yes, it does. I'm a visual person too, so I'm trying to, seeing how, we can connect because one of our major goals for our school district is reducing chronic absenteeism. And so as an Office of Community Schools, we are aligning that with our office goal as well as reducing chronic absenteeism. And so, yeah, but because I was just like trying to think of, how did you do it with your school improvement plan? But I kind of see how that works.
Yeah, so
Okay.
so all of our attendance, so we have this attendance goal, and so our coordinators said like, where will I add value? And so that culture of belonging piece, was like the tier one, right? So for tier one, we're going to create a culture of belonging, safety, and care so kids actually want to show up at school. Then tier two, it might be that powerful family engagement, right? So like, how are we going to embed or engage parents in this process so they understand how important attendance is? So we have attendance pledges that we had out at every single event. We sent them home to families. We had monthly newsletters. We had all of this communication back and forth. And actually, some of our community schools coordinators' goals were around parent communications. So they said from September till June, I'll have 25 unique interactions with families regarding the importance of attendance. And then tier three was those integrated systems of support. So what happens when a kid is tier three and chronically absent? What resources and supports are we going to put into place for them? Is it our neighborhood navigation center that offers them support with community resources? Is it connecting every kid with a trusting mentor? Is it having a social worker? So just thinking about like where you can add value to the plan is, I think, crucial.
Got it. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yep. Other questions? Or food for thought for the group? If not, I can go back to the PowerPoint a little bit. See if we can get there.
Yep, 10 minutes. 9 actually.
Okay, perfect. All right, everyone can see my screen again, right? I just want to, so there is a self-assessment in here. Let's see if we can pull it up. This thing hates me. Sorry, hold on. Current slide. If I can't pull it up, I'll just put it in the chat during the next part, but this is the problem. Oh no, it's not. Okay, it's happening for us, guys. It's all happening. Hold on. Okay. So, hold on one second. I'm putting a copy of the self-assessment in the chat for you. You don't need to do it now, but if I don't put it in here now, we'll forget. This will kind of help you along with the process that we went through. So we will use that later. And then we're just going to talk about these myths versus realities a little bit and see what people think. So the first one says, we're skipping that one. We just did that one. Hold on. Okay. Myth versus reality. Community schools coordinators can operate outside of school improvement. So does anyone want to kind of talk about this one? Do you see a way where the community schools coordinators can work separate from the school improvement process, or do you think it has to be embedded no matter what?
I
And you
think there
can
is a way
go ahead.
to operate outside of school improvement. Um, with my role, it's our pilot year, so we've really focused on family engagement and just kind of getting the word out about the programs and the pillars that we brought to our district. So one of the things that we've done, they're called Saturday Academies, where it's, um, yes, it does have a little bit with school improvement, but it's mainly about, we provide breakfast and lunch for families. We provide engaging activities, and programming for just kind of 2 hours, which we have things from like the zoo to teacher-led activities to, really just kind of promoting togetherness. And then we have lunch. And then, so I think that's one way that we were able to operate outside of school improvement, um, through those events. Yeah.
And Misty knows that I love Saturday Academies. They live about 2 hours away from us, so we go and visit them sometimes. I would push back on that and say that is part of your school improvement plan, right? Because in order for kids to be doing well in school, their families need to be engaged. And when families are engaged, either showing up at a Saturday Academy or reading a newsletter or something like that's going to help improve your school climate and culture and have them more invested. Anyone else? Does anyone feel like okay, Alex said random acts can be helpful in building trust. Yeah, so like let's be honest, everyone loves a good random act once in a while. Like when Oprah hands out free gifts, right? Like it's not super intentional. Like you get a car and you get a car and you get a car. Like it's nice to get a car. It might not be the thing you needed. Like it might have been more helpful for you to have your electricity bill paid, but we'll still take a good random act. So random acts can be the stepping stone and can help build trust. And then from there, where do you become more intentional? Okay. So this one says school improvement is the responsibility of teachers and administrators only. So, like at the end of the day, people will say teachers are ones in the classrooms doing the teaching and helping with the learning. I'm just a community schools coordinator. Like, what am I supposed to do about that? What are people's thoughts?
I think absolutely not. I think everybody has a part. Parents, students, the teachers, the principal, everybody has a part in making sure the end goal is met.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, I would agree with that and go even further into like families. Families are a huge part too. They're not in the school, but their involvement and their voice obviously can contribute.
Yep. So it's not just coordinators, it's also the other stakeholders as well.
Mhm.
And think about like the power you give people when you say like you're a key partner and you have a role in this, and then when you name that role, like that just gives you a little bit more ownership over it as well. So if your community schools coordinator can say, here's the school improvement plan, here's my role. Hey parents, what's your role? Hey students, what's your role? All of a sudden you have all of this synergy around everyone working toward the same thing.
To add on to that, I think it goes back to that infinity that we looked at earlier in the presentation. But community schools use the neighborhood wisdom to transform the system. So we're using everybody in our neighborhood to transform our school improvement.
100%. And when you think about the knowledge and cultural expertise and historical expertise of families and students, like you're only going to add value by including everyone in that process. Thank you. Anyone else?
I like the idea that you shared, Kelly, about how your community schools coordinators will go to like grade level meetings or teacher team meetings because I think like from a teacher perspective, sometimes they can feel like, oh, here comes another person giving us one more thing to do. Whereas like it's like flipping that dynamic and saying like, this is the school improvement plan, or this is what your academic goals are. Like, how can I, as the school community coordinator who has some different relationships, some different expertise, like contribute to what you're working on? And I think that that helps to build everybody's like buy into this as a strategy of how we do school, as opposed to just like an extra thing that like gets put on my plate sometimes. So I really like that idea.
Yeah, and last year we stole a best practice from a neighboring district, and it's my favorite thing. So I'm going to share it now. We have this new role called teacher champions. So if we have a brand new community school, a community school with a new coordinator, or even a community school who has like a principal turnover, we will hire a teacher champion, and it's cheap, right? Like it's a stipend position. It's like $2,000 for the whole year. And that teacher champion is going to be the person who's the cheerleader for the coordinator. So they're there sitting next to the coordinator, whether it's weekly, bi-weekly, even monthly, just to say like, hey, here's all the educational jargon you're going to hear. Here's how you're going to navigate this school. Here's how you're going to, that, you know, that fourth grade team that's really difficult. I'll bring you in as my friend, and I'm going to help you understand how to work with them. And so those teacher champions are worth their weight in gold for us. We've really appreciated their knowledge and expertise and really like breaking that school code for some of our coordinators who hadn't worked in schools before. Wilma?
Yes, I do have a question because my school, this is the first year they're going to have a coordinator. So it's fairly new. It's already been implemented in the district, but my school specifically, it's new. How would you recommend, I guess, me? I mean, the staff already knows me. I've been there for 2 years, but how could I support the teachers? Because I don't want to give them more, or they already have a lot on their plate. But I also want them to know that, hey, I am here to help. I have some knowledge. But how do you suggest I do that and bring that about to them, so it doesn't feel like it's too overwhelming and or more on their plate?
Yeah, we do a staff assets and needs where it's like we take 30 minutes of a staff meeting and we have the staff sit down and we like draw a sketch of a kid on a piece of paper, and they say all the assets kids bring. And then they say all the needs kids bring. And then they go one by one through those and say, what do we currently have in place to meet those assets and needs? And then the places where there's holes, we actually have them build consensus and say, which of these things are the things you need help about with.
Okay.
And then from that consensus from a staff meeting, we're able to take that information and use that and say, hey, you all told me what you need is X, Y, and Z. That's what I'm going to do to help support you this year.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's helpful. That way I just, you know, see what they need.
Yep. Somebody else said meet and greet, let them know about your new role, which I do think is uber important. Saying, like, you all know me in this context. Now I'm switching roles. Here's what I'm going to be doing. So I'll still be giving kids high fives in the hallway, but you can't send Charlie to me because he punched a kid and asked me to de escalate him for 2 hours because my new role is to do this instead. And so just being really clear with role clarity.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, our breakout is ending soon, but thank you all for being engaged and participating. And if you have any questions, my email was in the chat. I'll put it again.